So, I played Mouthwashing. Wasn't what I thought it was. Here I am saying I was having some pretty dirty teeth, so I was thinking I'd wash my mouth. I think that's what the game's about, right? When really, if I took a second to look at the categories for this game, I would have seen psychological horror clearly labelled for the world to see. Alright, so I just want to quickly test this. So if we go Steam, what is this? Oh, anyway, search, what was it called? Mouthwashing. Yeah, that would be it. Okay. Oh crap. Oh. Legit.
Boy, if you don't get...
I think I'm scarred for life. Anyway, please allow me to detail my experience in this short but long game. The game begins in the cockpit of a spaceship where I'm told to, quote, make a manual correction of 1.4 degrees leftwards to avoid impact with unknown mass. So pretty much if I just move a little bit to the left, I will avoid crashing the ship. Easy. What? But it said leftward. Wait, did it say leftward or am I gone crazy? Yeah. Alright, guess we're steering right. Find out that I need a key to turn this ship to the right, which I find in a storage cabinet nearby. I manage to insert the key and push the big red button, overriding the ship's autopilot and successfully turning the ship. The screen then flashes with crash imminent. Why am I doing this? I am now able to leave the cockpit, unsure of where I'm gonna go to save my bloody life. As I continue to walk, pulsing and eerie music starts to build, which makes me realize that I'm walking through long, narrow hallways knowing something bad is about to happen. What the heck? Nah, what the heck? Miles? What is going on, Miles? Can you tell me what's going on, Miles? This really played with my claustrophobia, along with knowing that I can only go forwards and backwards, no left or right. Doors begin to lock in front of me, meaning that the game is forcing me to go nowhere but back. In my mind, I'm thinking about how if there is anyone chasing me, I'm walking right into their open arms. And that I did. It's gonna be dark, isn't it? What is that? Look, it was funny, alright? The game starts to trip me out, as now the only way forward is to once again turn around and go back to where I just came from. Trying the same door as before, I discover that it has since unlocked, as if the game just wanted to show me this dude behind me earlier. As I continue, I eventually open a door and... He wouldn't kill me. Oh my god, he's... all disfigured. In my mind, I can only try to decipher what is going on. Music builds and alarms go off, reminding me the reality of the situation whilst I walk through countless narrow hallways that all look the same, making me think there's no end until... it's over. I'm dead. After the jump scare of my life, I find myself in a little committee meeting after a long 2 months. Here I meet the crew: Daisuke, Anya, Swansea, and myself, Jimmy. We seem to be discussing ways to get into the cargo hold, although Swansea is against the idea as it is locked up for a reason. However, 2 months after the crash, we are in such dire need of supplies that we ultimately decide we'll proceed anyway. Anya comes up with the idea of using an alternate access code to get in, which requires me to retrieve the code scanner. So on my way I go. I spend some time in the kitchen because I'm hungry, and some time wondering what this peculiar foam everywhere is. Is that foam? Is the secret actually like we're in the mouth? That looks like either toothpaste or shaving cream, like shaving foam, or what's that gastro thing? Mylenta. It's foam insulation for patching holes. I walk into the medical room and have quite the greeting. Who is this guy? Is he alright? Turns out, this guy's name is Captain Curly and was dragged out of the cockpit after the crash. Could this be who I was playing as at the start? Anya can't stand feeding Captain Curly any painkillers through the painful noises he apparently is making, therefore has asked me to do the honours. Because I'm such a good guy, I agree to do it. I grab the painkillers and shove them down his throat. Ugh. Is he choking? Is he alright? Yeah, I meant shove. I walk out of the medical room, finding Anya kneeling to the ground in a distraught state. Talking to her, I find out that we don't have a lot of painkillers left. She proceeds to say, "Why do you think he did it?" This confirms to me that Curly is in fact who I played at the beginning of the game. But what also clicks is that he is the one that crashed the ship. But why? I continue exploring the ship, finding myself conversing with Daisuke. Here he mentions that we have about 4 months remaining of the food supply, which I took note of. I then find Swansea standing in front of the utility room. So as a social person I am, I start talking to him. Turns out the utility room is actually drenched in foam and no one can get in there, so he is currently working on making it accessible. He says that he is trying to see if he can break it down enough to get something useful out, like his tools. Although, if he breaches the foam and breaks the air seal in doing so, they Gornskis. He then states that he will not be letting anyone in there. Reminds me of my dad. I make my way to the cockpit and find, what's that? The code scanner. Leaving the cockpit, I make my way to the cargo hold, finding a hidden code to the left of the entrance. I type the code in, the doors open, and I got so close to the end. The game crashes. Oh, never mind. That was close. I would have been surprised if the game crashed, as my computer's like really good. Like really good.
We do not care.
Anyway, we're thrown back in time to 7 days before the crash. Looks like I'm now playing as Curly. Anya is running me through a psych evaluation, which seems to be something Anya does with everyone in the crew. Turns out Jimmy doesn't take these tests too seriously, with reports like, then I have to make a report with things like, I have found myself sexually excited at the sight of cartoon horses. Unless he does take it seriously, then I'm not sure Anya should be telling me this. I have found myself sexually excited at the sight of cartoon horses. I contemplate if Jimmy is a brony and then am given the task of talking to Jimmy and Swansea. I head downstairs and find Jimmy out front of the utility room. I admire Jimmy's stubble before conversing with him. He doesn't say a lot, although I do mention that Daisuke was added to the crew last second. I walk into the utility room and see Daisuke trapped, surrounded by foam, and Swansea standing in front of him. I approach them. Turns out, Daisuke was trying to fix the vent when somehow the emergency foam was triggered. Swansea explains how he would have handled it, although I'm the only one with access to the X case. He then complains how every goddamn thing has to go through me. I approach the axe case displayed next to the utility room doorway and use my code scanner, finding a code at the bottom of it. You see, this code scanner is entrusted to the captain of the ship only, as it gives me access to codes for things that would otherwise be locked away. This is why the code scanner was found on the cockpit floor earlier, where Curly was dragged out of, and why Swansea was putting up a stink about everything having to go through me. I type the code in and obtain the axe. Approaching Daisuke, I carefully break away at the foam, trying not to injure him. And just like that, Daisuke's free. Yeah, the girls. Swansea scolds Daisuke like my dad. Oh man. I then entrust Swansea with my almighty axe. The almighty axe. Telling him to keep it until he's finished cleaning all of this loose foam up. With his honor and bravery, he agrees, and I continue on my merry way. Well, I would if Jimmy wasn't blocking the bloody door. I approach him and he tries to confirm that I've been diagnosed as sane? This has me wondering why my sanity is being questioned, and if this pertains to the crash at the beginning of the game. He tells me to meet up at the cockpit, so now on my merry way I go. This all feels too familiar, with what seems like endless hallways, and finally, endless stairs, descending as if I'm descending into madness. Not just the character, but me. After what seems like forever, I reach the end of the stairs, and this happens. Bunch of scratches on the stairs. Okay, yeah, what is this? See ya! What the heck? I fall into a pit of what looks like a pool of blood. I continue walking when sirens go off, along with warning screens from what I think is the crash. Well, crap. And ladders start coming out of the ground. The sun rises and then... That's a bit much! What? In this moment of silence, I'm left alone with my thoughts, wondering, what did all of that mean? A pool of blood? Sirens? Ladders? The sun? The only thing I can think of is the day of the crash. Did this relate to that, or am I completely wrong? A small box fades into the center of the screen, where all that there is to do is walk towards it. As it gets bigger and I get closer, I realize it's a door. I open it, and here I am. The cockpit. I see Jimmy sitting on the chair, so I approach him. I ask if he has been able to complete his mandated tasks as co-pilot. So, turns out Jimmy is co-pilot. Okay. Curly seems to be surprised with Jimmy's progress as a freighter pilot. He mentions how Jimmy struggled back on Earth. We then start talking about how, although Curly has made it to the top being a captain and all, he seems to be having second thoughts on his life choices. Is this enough? Should I just stay here because I've been successful at it? Am I figured out? Is this all I'll ever be? These are the kind of thoughts he's been having apparently, which gives us an insight into the humanity of his character in a way which most people can relate. A lot of people actually go through the same questions, being unsure of whether they've taken the correct path in life. Jimmy seems to be understanding, but also brings up that whilst Curly is on top, he's still climbing and climbing. We then get a message from the big guys themselves, which gets printed on a piece of paper, and Jimmy takes that as his cue to leave. Finishing our conversation, I start to question whether Curly could truly do something such as crash the ship, dooming everyone on it. He seems like just a normal guy. It's hard to believe that, I don't know, like, he seems like a pretty chill dude. Like, he seems a bit like bothered like with his job, but like, that's about it, you know? Why would he kill people? I take the piece of paper that was printed out and then yeah, I didn't know what to write. It says gibberish on the screen whilst I appear to be in the cargo hold, I think. This place is pretty dark, which obviously means scary, and I begin walking forward because who wouldn't? In the distance, I notice a TV playing static. Could this be Slender Man? I go to change the channel, seeing if anything is on Channel 9 or Cartoon Network, although there was no luck. There was, however, one peculiar channel that displayed white. And then suddenly House begins playing, which of course intrigues my interest. Not! I've never actually seen it. Eventually I find the nature channel, and who doesn't love nature? And believe it or not, as we mentioned there being no mouthwashing, this happens. That's a tree. That's beautiful. Yeah, I don't know anything about this game. I know, right? There's been 0% mouthwashing. I was looking forward to like mouthwashing and stuff. Kill bacteria. Could this be it? Oh my god! Once again, the screen begins to glitch and we're once again thrown 2 months after the crash, which was when, playing as Jimmy, we gained access to the cargo hold. What is this? Boxes and boxes of the mouthwash we just saw on TV? Turns out that the whole cargo hold was full of the stuff and is what we were delivering. Anya takes a look, saying that the sugar content probably offsets any potential as a disinfectant. Swansea snatches it from my hand, takes a look, reading out loud, 14% ethanol? Oh no. Swansea downs the bottle as eerie music starts playing. And cheers to a good night, and Captain Curly? Yeah, he's legit getting drunk from mouthwash. Playing as Curly, I'm given the objective to break the news. This must relate to the note I obtained earlier. As for what the news is, I don't know. I walk through the door to the dining room and am confronted by the crew clapping for me. Finally, the recognition I deserve. They all give me a fat surprise as celebration for my birthday. Anya says, "We only get one communal birthday party per trip, so we can have it whenever." I'm sorry, I was just trying something new. Jimmy says that I was next on the list, although I will still have to make the birthday cake, as Anya states that I'm the only one with clearance. Fuming that I have to work on my birthday, I stomp on over to the kitchen. I grab a water packet from the counter before discovering the recipe book, in which I find the cake amongst the pages. Water and gelatin I apparently need, so my search commences. After looking around, I find... what is this? It makes ingredients pretty much. I put a random code and get a tonic. Nice. Okay, so now that I don't have the ingredients for the cake, let's make a cake. What? I don't know if I'm doing the right thing here. Wait, what is that? I made a crack. I didn't mean that. Yeah, so it took me way too long to make the cake. I finally discover the codes for the ingredients on the menu and make myself a gorgeous cake. Superb. Everyone is waiting for me at the table, so I slap that cake in the middle, just like you should slap that lot. They request a speech from the almighty king, so I give them the most motivational, inspirational, heartwarming speech they could ever dream of. That's all it said on the report from management. We will receive the paycheck for this delivery. I don't know any more than that. Is it not telling me on purpose? Pony Express finally kicking the bucket, huh? What a joke. And where the punchline? Yeah. Jimmy goes on a massive rant about how I'm leaving them in the dirt and seems jealous that I will be fine after this, but the others can't afford to lose their job because they got nothing else. Bruh, this ain't my fault. So after that heartwarming speech, I cut the cake. I wake up in the,
Damn, boy, I
wake up in the living room 3 months later as Jimmy. I get up to walk around, although the ship seems a lot quieter this time around. I walk into the medical room, Curly once again laying on the bed. After inspecting him, I am given a new objective to find Anya and ask her if Curly has been given his painkillers today. I stop by the cargo hold and notice that boxes that were once filled with mouthwash are now empty within just 1 month, which gives us an idea on how much of a crippling addiction we have. I eventually find both Anya and Swansea talking in the cockpit. Interacting with them, they don't notice me immediately, and Anya says, "No, I understand completely, if that's how it has to be." They notice me, and Anya's like, "You not able to sleep either?" In which I respond by stating that it's nighttime and asking, "Why are you talking this late? I notice Anya crying, in which I tell them to keep it together. I then proceed to ask Anya if she had given Curly his meds, which she denies. She tries to tell me she will do it, in which I'm like, I'll handle it. She's like, nah, it's okay. And I'm like, no, I will handle it. Listen here. I approach Curly in the medical room and shove those painkillers up his down his mouth. But not before, of course, talking to myself, saying how I'm now in the driver's seat and whatnot. Anyway, enjoy. Look. Jesus. 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 Hey, Curly. What you doing over there? Seems like he's prepped some cake for us. Pog. I sit at the table to chill with him. He says we should have some, which I respond, it's mediocre at best. Curly says sometimes you can only get the subpar stuff, and that's what makes the good stuff good. He proceeds to talk about how all he can do is try to make his life one he's not trying to run from all the time. He pretty much tells me that right now he wants to have some mediocre cake with his friend being me. Oh my god, oh my god. He called me his fringe. So, I go to look for a knife. Endless hallways. I finally find an axe penetrating the seat. What is all this blood? I pick it up and go back through the endless hallways, eventually finding my way back to the dining area. There's a massive eyeball staring through my soul on the cracked screen. I swear, first thing I see upon entering this room. Curly is laying on the table. Look, Curly, I like you as a friend, but I'm not. I approach him and immediately realize what the game wants me to do. I sit there for a solid few seconds, refusing. I prepare myself mentally, and then... Am I about to kill him? Bro, fine, I'll do it. But I'm not going to feel good about doing it. Oh, what? Oh, okay. Blue board. Playing as Jimmy, I appear in the cargo hold with all the empty mouthwash boxes. Leaving the hold, I immediately find Daisuke laying on the floor with a bottle of mouthwash in his hand. I'm like, how many have you had? Those will kill you before anything else. He states that he is aware and continues to talk about how his mum found this internship for him, calling him a slacker, and that Daisuke never knew what he wanted to be. He tells me to take the mouthwash, so I accept. I continue to walk to the dining area where I find, he's had a bit too much to drink, I think. I've also got to mention how much I love this cinematography. I look around the room and notice all the empty bottles of mouthwash. I mean, surely there's a bin on this ship, right? I mean, I get there's no garbage truck, but just like, launch that trash out in space. You know, pollute it. My guiding light throughout this game, named Striking Cobra, points out the board game on the table. Although having no idea as to what it is, I move on. The mascot seems to be broken, which feels like it indicates frustration and panic throughout the crew. Understandably. I approach Anya, who is sitting at the dining table looking at a bottle of mouthwash. I ask, "You thinking about drinking that too?" As an odd camera angle is shown, highlighting the label on the mouthwash saying, "Kills 99.9% of all germs." Anya says, "Honestly, yeah, it'd probably just make me feel sick." It seems like Anya is one of the few that have stayed sober throughout this game. Anya proceeds to say that not all of the medicine aboard was in her office, and that there was some stored in a storage locker in the hallway. I ask why she hasn't brought it up, in which she states that it was foamed up and that she thought it was impossible to reach it. Although she recently estimated that the medicine locker wasn't too far into the foam, meaning they could probably break it down enough to reach it. I mentioned that it's risky as one wrong strike could suck them all into space, but we ultimately decide that it's worth it. I now need to obtain the axe from Swansea, so I approach him. I tell him I need the axe, in which he goes on about how it was entrusted to him by Curly. He says how much of a big responsibility it is, although I'd know all about that. I inform him about the plan. He eventually gives me the axe. Thanks. This, by the way, is that massive crack in the screen that I saw earlier. This means that was a glimpse into the distant future, right? Maybe? I yank that axe out of the wall and make my way to the locker and murder the hell out of that foam. I clear up my path to the locker with no problems. I open it and grab painkillers and isopropyl alcohol. Anya instant transmissions behind me and asks me to feed Curly's painkillers again because it still makes her nauseous. Jimmy puts up a fuss about it and says that he's trying to actually fix things. Wait, what was that? The screen flash saying take responsibility. What does that mean? Does Jimmy need to take responsibility for something? He then says that he's getting us through this and lists everything he's had to do for the crew because the captain has to take responsibility for this ship. What a reliable captain that actually pretty much chose to be captain. Also, as he says take responsibility, the same screen as before once again flashes. Throughout this, I just feel sorry for Anya and legitimately start to hate Jimmy, like bro chose to be captain and proceeds to complain about being captain. I approach Curly and tell him how I didn't understand the pressure he was under before. I tell him that he will be captain again and I will get us through this. And as per tradition, all right, next. Judgment? 6 hours until judgment? Ooh. I seem to be in the cockpit. After a moment of silence, Swansea's voice comes out of nowhere saying, "Jimmy, get the fuck out here!" He starts banging on the door trying to get in. Like, I'm bloody freaking out here. In pure panic, I desperately look around to find some form of escape. I didn't find an escape, although I pick up a rope and attach it to the door. I also find a metal pipe beside the door in which I use to barricade said door. I should be safe now, I reckon. Oh. Playing as Curly once again, I appear to be talking to Anya. She can't sleep, in which I'm able to relate. Anya says she likes the nighttime window screen, so she just comes to look at it sometimes. She points out a dead pixel in the upper right corner, although Curly can't see it. Putting my glasses to use, I have a look myself. Yeah, nah, she crazy. Curly says that he doesn't think it ruins the illusion, though maybe he's just used to looking at the big picture. Anya asks how many days of transport we got left, in which I answer around 237 days. She says just under 8 months. Anya asks why they put a lock in the medical room but not the sleeping quarters. Curly says for the same reason they put a lock in the cockpit, safety, and then safety flashes on the screen. So the medical room and the cockpit both have locks there for safety reasons, although the sleeping quarters didn't? So I'm in the living area. Daisuke appears asking for help. He says that it's a total emergency. I tell him to calm down and tell me what it is. Daisuke says that Anya is stuck in medical and the door won't open. The game really just transitioned from me talking about locks into this dilemma. We decide to go have a look, so I head to the medical. I tell Anya how I heard the lock was broken. I ask if she can hear me, which she says yes. I point out that our medical stash is in there too, and that this could be bad. I ask if she tried putting her back into it, Daisuke asking if there's any wrenches laying around. I try to confirm that the door is stuck, and she says no. Has she locked herself in? I tell her that we're all stressed, but she can't break down at every hardship. Open the damn door. Don't really think you're convincing her, Jimmy. She talks about how I was right all along and that she should have done this from the beginning. I then realised that she'd be in there with Curly. Now, I don't know what she plans to do, but it can't be good. She says that she believed that our worst moments don't define us, but she says that this isn't her worst moment. It is the best decision she'll ever make. She then ends on, "I'll take care of it." Of what? Is all I have to wonder. We discuss alternate routes into the medical room, in which Daisuke says that there is this one spot that's strictly off limits. The utility room with the busted vent. Apparently it loops into medical. I make my way to the utility room, although Swansea is sitting by it like a guard dog, or like one of them royal dudes, or like me in one of them cubicles with the faulty locks. I'm trying to like take a dump with one foot keeping that door shut. Anyway, we talk to Swansea saying how we need his help. Long story short, he doesn't let us into the utility room. So now it says 8 hours to... Oh my god, is that Daisuke? What happened? I tell him, don't do anything, stop, I can fix this. Swansea asks why I keep saying that. As Swansea says, there seems to be a pattern where Jimmy wants to fix everything. Swansea asks for the disinfectant, the one from the extra medical stash, he says. I'm assuming he's talking about the isopropyl alcohol. Although I remember still having it, Jimmy responds by saying, "The cocktail you," and then blames Swansea, saying he never would have, he had no choice. At this point, I have no idea what Jimmy's talking about, but Swansea then calls him a useless idiot, then says there has to be something else. I'm given the task of finding a disinfectant, and on my way I go, I guess. The first place I think of is the medical room. As I go in, this happens. Oh my lord, what? A big blob on the screen. Is this something the game doesn't want to show me yet? I talk to Swansea, who seems to be upset with me, understandably, and tells me to look elsewhere. Upon investigating the area, I find blood on the floor leading from the vent to where Daisuke is. Something tells me that this plan to get into the medical is a bad idea. I walk down the stairs toward where the utility room is and see this. Oh. Is this... There's a flower here that only describes one person. Rest in peace, Daisuke, who's still alive, last I checked. I examine it where it tells me to get out my code scanner, so I did. What? This game is wigging me out. There's a blood trail that leads through the door to the cargo hold, so I follow it and end up going down some stairs. As I'm walking down, it flashes again. Take responsibility. As I continue, the words quiet flash on the screen, which I actually miss completely. I continue to tread along with great might. Yeah. What is... Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, so when I die, it flashes on the screen again, and I continue to be as loud as I possibly bloody can. It took me so long to realize that I actually had to be quiet. In fact, I didn't even realize. Striking Cobra told me in my Twitch chat. Reaching the end, I find Mouthwash being held by the mascot, so I take it. I'm now sitting at Daisuke. Oh no, is this the disinfectant? So I give him the disinfectant. There could be worse in a dire situation. Yeah. Jesus. I'm back with a sudden premonition of the future. We are still in front of the utility room talking about how that vent connects to the medical. Daisuke mentions how, like Swansea has been saying, trying to break all of that foam in the utility room could risk breaking the air seal. I informed Daisuke that Anya is currently at the state of doing something extreme. I tell Daisuke that us together can save Curly and we have to figure it out ourselves. So Daisuke agrees. He asks how we get the door to the utility open with Swansea camping out front. I mention the idea of knocking him out, where Daisuke asks if I'm going to fight him, but I mention a different method using booze. I'm going to knock him out by creating that mocktail I made earlier, except using different ingredients to add a kick to it. We head to the kitchen. I look at the menu where the ingredients for the mocktail has been replaced with mouthwash and isopropyl. I see. Remember last chapter? Swansea asks for the disinfectant being the isopropyl, but I say cocktail, we, you, and then proceeded to blame him. Yeah, so I blamed him because he continues to stand guard, so I feel forced to knock him out with this cocktail. This is the beginning of devastation. I combine the two ingredients and Looks a bit bland, let's add some sweetener. Nice. When you've made a bad cocktail, just add some sugar. You'll be right. So now that I've got the spiked cocktail, I head over back to Swansea, gift him it as a peace offering, and he wastes no time taking it out of my hands. Before downing the drink, he tells Daisuke how he never should have come here because the job pretty much sucks. Swansea downs the drink, then decides to take a nap. Or dies, I'm not sure to be honest. I grab the utility room key and talk to Daisuke. Daisuke is concerned for Swansea, in which I say he's fine because his tolerance has to be through the roof. I open the door and in I go. The place is not as foamed up as Swansea made it out to be. Not just that, but something interesting is pointed out. A cryostasis pod. I asked Daisuke about how Swansea never let him break through the foam with him, which Daisuke recounts Swansea saying that he was just too strong and would have just torn right through the foam, which Daisuke of course understands completely. I paint the picture of Swansea lying about it all. He hasn't been working to get rid of all the foam. There was never much to begin with. I say that he has been biding his time till he can save himself, which Daisuke asks if getting in the pod would really get you rescued. Jimmy says how 20 more years to get found are better odds and he would take those chances, although saying that he wouldn't do it like Swansea by lying through his teeth waiting for everyone else to die. Daisuke still believes in Swansea, saying it can't be right, and will ask him when he wakes up. We look at the vent, talking about how it's still in one piece, although there appears to be sparks coming from it. Jimmy pushes Daisuke to go in there, where Daisuke says that Swansea said it wasn't safe. He talks about how although Swansea lied about the pod, he knows all about this kind of stuff and suggests waiting for him to wake up. Jimmy pushes him further, saying, "You said you could handle it. Swansea taught you well, right? Time to prove it. He'll be impressed when he wakes up, proud." I say how he will understand and then explain himself. I then re-inform Daisuke that everyone is counting on him. Man, I don't like this. Here we've clearly seen how manipulative Jimmy can be. Like, Daisuke clearly doesn't want to go in there, and he just keeps pushing him. And why couldn't Jimmy do it himself? We've got to be like roughly the same size, right? Anyway, Daisuke crawls into the vent. Is this how he gets injured? This definitely leads to him getting injured somehow. Do I just go to the medical room maybe? Sorry. What happened? Enya! What did you do? Okay, so now we're one day before the crash. This game really throws me around in time. I appear in the medical and immediately leave. I look at the board game again. Nope, nothing. I walk into the cockpit and find Anya knelt to the floor. Talking to her as Curly, I ask, "Where is it?" Then proceed to tell her that us being let go isn't a reason to hurt yourself. I say that as our nurse, she never got psych evals and that I should have thought of that. I let her know that she could have come to me, in which she responds, "What would I have done?" I tell her anything and that her and the crew are my responsibility. She says that she isn't going to hurt herself and states that the gun is in a safety case she can't open. She says she hid the case and Curly asks where and proceeds to say, "None of this will have to be on our performance log. We'll figure it out together." Then Anya says, I'm pregnant. Oh my. I ask with who, and Anya says, Captain, I told you. I say, I can fix this, and I've known him for a long time. I'll talk to him. Him? Who could him be? She says she hid the gun to make sure that he never gets it either. Who is him? We're back here. It seems that the bleeding won't stop, and I reassure him that everything will be okay and we will fix it. Swansea chimes in asking if Daisuke can hear him. He seems unable to speak. Swansea asks again, Daisuke? Swansea starts to lift up his axe, in which I scream at him to stop. Oh man. Swansea tells Daisuke that in this line of work, you could never have become like miserable old Swansea. What a tragedy. He says that he thought he was dumber than a can of paint, always just chewing his ear off about nothing, useless ray of goddamn sunshine. Not an A student, career workhorse or force of ambition, just a damn good kid trying his best. You could have taught an old fool like me a lot. Close your eyes, Daisuke. Man, the dialogue in this game can really actually be incredible at points. Swansea's monologue here really recounts the kind of relationship they both had. The teacher and the apprentice. I call Swansea a monster and once again say I could have fixed him. Jimmy is really delusional. I say how I have to do everything myself. I really hate this guy. Swansea asks how I still don't understand that it's over and he now won't suffer one more second because of my delusions. I inform Swansea that I know about his plan after my trip to utility, that he has been sneaking around with the axe and telling Anya who knows what. He's making sure that he is the only one who gets inside that cryopod. Swansea admits to talking to Anya but states that it was actually Anya telling Swansea things. Shouldn't a captain go down with his ship? He asks. He then says that it doesn't matter as he has everything he wants right there on the ship and tells me to go ahead and get in that pod. So Swansea had no intention of using it then? I'm given the objective to get the gun. Why? And Anya hid it, didn't she? I make my way into medical. What's happening in the medical room? Is it still? Oh. There it is. Anya overdosed on painkillers. Curly seems to be fine, but Anya, man. The gun case is now exposed. I'm not sure why, although I need a code. I find the code inside the locker in the cockpit. I make my way back to the gun case, input the code, and take the gun. Curly must have remembered an Amy Schumer joke as he begins to laugh. Swansea then yells, "This is the day of the crash." Playing as Curly, I see Anya kneeling in the medical ahead of me, so I approach her. She says, "I told him," which I assume she's talking about the father of her baby. But still, I don't know who that is. I tell Anya that she should have waited for me, and then I ask what he said. She says nothing that makes any difference. I ask if he seemed angry and where he went. Apparently he just walked away. Man, this guy is an awful person. She says that she doesn't want him here anymore. I tell her I need to find him and everything is going to be okay. I'm told I need to go to the cockpit, and on my way there, the eerie music begins. I eventually approach Jimmy. Is this the father? Is this the awful person Anya has been describing? Anya mentioned those locks earlier, saying that the medical and the cockpit both have them, but the sleeping quarters didn't. Does this mean Jimmy raped Anya? Anya got pregnant with Jimmy's baby, and Jimmy can't take responsibility for it? And that's why those screens keep flashing, the motif throughout the game about taking responsibility? I approached Jimmy saying I can fix this. Both Jimmy and Curly seem to say that but appear to fix nothing, just making everything worse instead. Also, why is Curly telling Jimmy he can fix this when he should be beating the snot out of his nose and then shoving that snot into his mouth and laughing at him because he eats his own boogers and it's funny? I tell him that we can figure all of this out, you and me. Then the screen flashes with "Take care of it," kills 99%. This feels like what I mentioned earlier, with the words "I can fix it" equaling killing 99%. Kind of like the mouthwash. Jimmy says how he only hears what great of a leader I am, but asks what I think will happen now when we get back. Probably prison is what I should have said, but I instead tell him we will fix this together. I tell him he's gotten through difficult situations before and this won't be different. Jimmy tells me how it's also my fault as I'm captain and should have had everything under control. Everything that happened here was my responsibility. Then Jimmy says, or this can all be remembered as a tragedy. What? Jimmy had something to do with the crash? Despite what must have been the best efforts of the acclaimed captain, the Tolpa crew was never found. No one survived to tell the tale. Bruh. Jimmy would rather die and kill everyone with him than take responsibility. In fact, take responsibility once again flashes on the screen. We then finally see what Curly looks like.
Damn. Damn, boy. Damn, boy, he's thick. Boy, that's a thick ass boy. Damn.
You're standing at the top, feet in cement. I get it now. Right. But why? Bruh. I'll take care of it. Oh no, Jimmy. Jimmy crushes the ship. Not Curly, Jimmy. And all because he didn't want to take responsibility for everything he did to Anya. Jim, tell me you didn't. I should have. I didn't. What the fuck did you do? So it seemed like Curly didn't know what Jimmy's plans were, but he must have had faith in him or something. So Jimmy crushed the thing. I'm holding Curly. Given the whole new perspective on who Jimmy actually is, this seems unsettling. It seems that the game wants me to walk to the dining room, so I do. And I see this. Oh, God. It's my friends. Everyone is dead. Although I haven't seen Swansea's death yet, so... spoilers? Upon examining him, I see a bullet through his head, so I ask the question of whether I was the one to shoot him. I mean, I was the only person with a gun last I remember. In fact, me getting my hands on that gun has only now been made more unsettling. And it's got me thinking back to when Anya didn't want me to get my hands on it. It all makes sense now. Next, I place Curly on the table. In the middle. I'm scared. Oh my. Everyone is awake. I'm insane. They clap for me, wishing a happy birthday and calling me captain. I grab the knife ready to cut the cake. But where is the cake? Well... oh, they're not making me do this. I serve up a plate of cake for everyone and give my speech directed towards Curly. I tell him how a lot of people struggle to put food on their plate and how the lowest rung of his ladder is our highest until it was swept from under his feet. I tell him life isn't worth living at the same level as us, but we all forgive him. I tell him that we'll make it through this. Jimmy seems like all he can think about is this whole envy thing with Captain Curly. Even after everything he has done, he paints Curly as the bad guy, which is just delusional. And he uses the word we like everyone else had a thing against Curly, but Jimmy was the only one that had a thing against Curly. It's dark. All I can see is the door to the medical. I walk towards it. I open it. And this doesn't look like the medical room I remember. What does remain is that busted vent. The one Daisuke went through before, you know? I see a key jangling, so I go to pick it up. Oh, got baited. Falling quite a drop, I end up in what looks like the vent, but it's like upsized or something. The only way to go is forward, so I do so. Whilst in here, I can only think of how this was the place Daisuke got heavily injured. Am I gonna find whatever did it? Just as thinking that, I see Daisuke and... oh... the scene switches to red lights and blood on the floor. I finally find myself at the end of the tunnel, although it's a dead end. There is, however, a note attached to the grate. It says, "No turning back now." I mean, it's not wrong. Turning back leads me to a dead end. But this note strikes me as something not as literal. It's kind of like this vent was my journey. All of the poor decisions I've made thus far. But what's done is done, and there is no turning back. Jimmy seems to think he can fix everything, but in reality, he just can't. After the note, I decide to turn back. I turn back. Oh. I figure that I have to walk backwards without turning around as I do it. I see another grate. I see. I have to walk backwards and always be facing the grate pretty much. I do this and eventually find a grate with responsibility attached to it. I once again walk backwards, becoming further and further away from the note, as if I'm getting further and further away from taking responsibility. I eventually end up in what looks like a long narrow hallway, reminding me of the beginning of the game with all those hallways bringing out my inner claustrophobia. I end up falling down a large drop onto a door. I drop through the door and see a grate, so I open it and crawl through. After crawling for a bit, I drop through the exit, and Swansea is seated, with his hands tied. There's a gun in front of him, so I pick it up. Earlier, I saw the bullet hole in his head, and I have a feeling that I'm about to get an explanation of where it came from. I point the gun at him, and I think it's obvious what I have to do. I shoot the fly buzzing next to him. I am now in a... Is this a cemetery? Oh man, this place is giving me maze vibes. I find a photo of Daisuke. Don't ask. Oh my god, it's Batman! Oh no, it's just Swansea. Ah! I use all my training I learned from Valorant to take down Swansea. And then finally... There we go. He's dead. I have something to say. So shut the fuck up and listen. I spent 13 years half cut up to my eyeballs, drunk to put it mildly. Then suddenly I saw it, a street light shining in my face, 500 gigawatts of the power of God. A vision of the bloated body found in some ditch scared me straight. So I got a collar shirt, mortgage, and a credit card. All the things to make a good man. I hoped I could raise my children to be better than their old man. I wanted to believe I was never one setback away from my worst self. But the truth is, discipline, drive, routine, the endless fucking desperation to get shit done. A loving wife, great kids, sobriety. I'm telling you, accomplishments I'd been chasing all my life never felt as good as I expected when I crossed the finish line. So now that we're at the end, taking inventory, those nights spinning out of my head, sinking into the sofa, broken glass in my palms, bleeding dry, the funniest thing ever, old dogs laughing and snarling on a waterbed floor, mocking the moon for daring to show its face, all nausea and wreckage and vomit and ugly cruelty, the only problem in the world, an empty bottle. Those were the best days of my life. Yeah, those were the best days of my life. I got nothing to hide, ready to face the music. I can see myself for what I am, but you, a cowardly, selfish motherfucker, and you can't even see it. I should have been able to protect the kid. If I could have done one thing right, I wish it had been to give him one small chance off this goddamn rock. Swansea, I'm going to fix everything. We're going to make it. Fuck you. Swansea is dead. Only after he reflects on his own life, talking about when he gave up his youth full of alcohol for the sake of the responsibilities that come with a wife, kids, and a stable job. He reflects saying that before he took those responsibilities would have been the best times of his life. I think what he is trying to say to Jimmy is that taking responsibility doesn't always feel good, but is necessary. If Swansea continued his life pursuing alcohol and partying, he could only see himself dead in a ditch somewhere, which scared him. Jimmy, however, doesn't listen, instead once again saying the words, "I'm going to fix everything," as if nothing has changed. And he shoots Swansea. I'm alone in a room with Swansea's corpse. Lovely. Going through the door, I find myself in another endless hallway, although when I look down, I notice something odd. My God, please someone help me. Eventually eyeballs appear on the wall, slowly more and more appearing until the walls are practically eyeballs. I pee in a throat? Butthole? I don't know. Okay, so it was a throat. I see something in the distance, so I walk towards it. Oh, it's Curly. I watch some TV with my boy Curly. The show suddenly stops, so I click on the TV and take Curly's leg. Brother. I take it and Feast is written on the screen with some footage of a boy eating a steak, I think. Leg?
Where's the lamb sauce?
I approach Curly and... Oh yay! A minigame! I have to feed Curly his own leg. What Jimmy be doing? Did he pass those psych evals? I forget. I have found myself sexually excited at the sight of cartoon horse. Spending quite a bit of time messing with the valves, I finally get the right combination. And here comes the aero helicopter. Delicious. Slenderman's static screen happens. I turn around to see if the footy's on. I don't get the footy, but I do get the Jimmy is a psychopath show. I eventually work out that I can walk by holding W. So I do that till I loop a few times until I see Curly sitting there on fire. Yeah. I talk to him. He says how he wants to go home, in which I respond by saying, we are home. He asks me why I don't finish what I started and not to worry if anyone finds us. Curly will be playing the villain, which feels passive aggressive. You'll be the better man in the end, like you wanted. I could have stopped it. I'm taking responsibility. I fall to the ground saying that we can both be heroes and that we're a team just like we used to be. What happened was an accident. We were trapped. I made a mistake, alright? And finally, I say I'm sorry. Once again, I'm in the vents. I find an ultrasound. I use it to find what looks like baby horses. And then... Okay, yeah. And that's probably reflecting back to the pregnancy, isn't it? Oh my... All clean shows up on the screen. I hope this hurts flashes on the screen. Really gets rid of that bad taste in your mouth, huh? Through wreckage, through silence, wash it away. All day fire fresh. I'm in another vent. I move forward and see a thing. Oh my god, it's like a creepy looking caterpillar. Narrowly avoiding it a few times, I eventually get caught. Looking at me. I'm dead. I'm in a room now, and a bunch of IDs fall. Now, this is very interesting because it contains everyone's ID except one crew member is being covered. Anya's. Now, this whole time Jimmy has been thinking that all this has only been about crashing the ship and what he's done to Curly. But what can't even enter his brain is what happened leading up to the crash. What he did to Anya. As I continue, I find some stairs as mouthwash begins falling from the sky. Jesus Christ, free mouthwash! Yippee! It's like cloudy with a chance of dental hygiene. As I reach the top of the stairs, lights, camera action, and there's the mascot standing atop a pile of mouthwash. He spits some mumbo jumbo calling me an old man and saying this is above my pay grade. I tell him that Pony Express is dead. He calls me caged and misunderstood. Sorry flashes on the screen and I tell him to shut up. I say both me and Curly tried our best, but he is ultimately the better man. I see that now. We can both still make it. I'll take care of him. I'm taking responsibility. Curly, Captain. I'm so sorry. Paula asks, You really mean that, huh? I say yes, but I can still make this right. Our worst moments don't make us. I just want to make a quick note here that this relates to what Anya was saying earlier, but he cuts off as if he doesn't want to bring it up. Paula butts in. Wait a minute. If all of that is true, why are you still so concerned with him? I am back at the party table. I pick up Curly, I walk out of the dining room and end up in an endless narrow hallway. After walking for ages, I get the objective to go home. I continue to walk down this straight path which ends up leading me into the utility room. I place Curly into the cryopod and tell him, "It's okay, Curly. You're going to be okay. You always had my back. I ended up hurting you even though I was trying to save us, but now you'll survive. It's like you said, together we can fix anything. I'm just proud I got to be your friend and co-pilot, Captain. No one can hurt you now. We fixed it. I fixed it." He walks away and... the cryopod activates as the credits roll. And there you have it. Jimmy believed himself to have taken responsibility for everything he had done, but till the very end, never even gave Anya a second thought. This was just reinforced by the mascot Polar when it asked why I was so concerned with him. I actually really like the ending to this game as it shows you hints that he hasn't properly taken responsibility. Whilst if someone wasn't really paying that much attention, they could have totally forgot about Anya just like Jimmy did and ended on a kind of good outcome. Not really though. There were also times as of making this video where I'm looking back knowing all the big reveals and whatnot and being like, for example, that scene with Anya holding the mouthwash bottle just staring at it, wondering whether she would drink it or not. She was pregnant at the time. As everyone should know, you shouldn't consume alcohol while pregnant, therefore this scene is secretly darker than it appears on surface. One thing I wasn't sure of was what the mouthwash actually represented. I saw one theory online saying that the mouthwash represents Jimmy because as the label states it kills 99.9% of germs. Not only that, but mouthwash tries to be good for your dental hygiene, although only ends up harming your teeth with all the sugar it's packed with. I just thought that was interesting. But it's just hidden stuff like this that I love in a psychological horror game. Scrumptious. I've got to recommend you give this game a try and just see everything unfold yourself. The dialogue, the music, the scenery, it's all just beautiful. If you've made it this far, I thank you so much for watching. If you want to see me play these games live, check out my Twitch, or if you just want to catch up on the full VODs, you can check out my VODs channel. Those links will be in the description, and I once again thank you for stopping in. Peace!